All right. Echo, Marvel's Echo. Let's talk about it. All right, so Marvel's Echo just came out. I believe it's the 10th Disney Plus show to release over there on the Disney Plus platform. And, well, I'm going to come out and say it initially going in that we had high expectations for the show. I mean, once again, we were duped by the trailer. The trailer made the show or presented the show in a very positive way. Like we were getting vibes that it was going back to the Daredevil Netflix days or level of violence and storytelling that everybody came to love from the Netflix shows like Punisher and Daredevil. I mean, those are the two main ones. And the Echo trailer, all of them, when they all dropped, I mean, they were giving us some vibes that we were going back potentially to a Netflix like universe when it comes to these street level or ground level Marvel movies. Then the show released here recently, came out, it dropped all at once, all 5 episodes, or as part of Disney's special highlight or spotlight where they want to pay a little bit more attention to the ground level, threats and things like that. Things that don't always require high powered heroes like any of the Avengers or most of your top tier Avengers or your cosmic heroes. So Echo release, it's over on Disney Plus, 5 episodes. It's starring Alaqua Cox. I believe I'm saying her name correct. It's starring Alaqua Cox. And I just want to throw it out there right now that yes, Echo is a hero or anti-hero, however you want to kind of put it, going all the way back to her true comic book hero origins. But Echo is essentially an anti-hero or assassin-like character or figure where she's worked alongside of Daredevil and Spider-Man and other major Marvel characters in her comic book continuity. While that may not be the case here following the Disney Plus show, I mean, I can say without a doubt, going forward here that it's very unlikely that she'll team up with any of the major Avenger-like characters. And that's mainly because the show really kind of separates itself from the larger part of the MCU. And this is part of Disney Marvel's plan going forward in the future. But going on along here in this review, I will add that any and all spoilers will be left towards the end of this video. The first part of this review is mainly going to highlight the substance or how well the show is actually presented from a linear perspective, being that all 5 episodes release at the same time. They're about 45 to 50 minutes long. Episodes 1, 2, and 3, they kind of start off really slow, which is not good being that it's a 5-part episode, miniseries or short series. I think Alaqua Cox in each episode as an actress did a fantastic job. She's also deaf in real life. She also had her leg amputated in real life as well. So it's really, neat seeing a disabled hero getting their time in the spotlight. But Alaqua Cox as an actress did a fantastic job. I don't really see anything where her performance held the series back. Ultimately, what held the series back is it being one, a short miniseries, only 5 episodes long, so it's really hard to tell a cohesive story. And then two, the story itself that was presented, being that there was no overarching villain for Echo or for Maya Lopez. Yes, Kingpin does appear, Vincent D'Onofrio's Kingpin, who is essentially, for the most part himself, what we've came to love in the Netflix Daredevil show, just a little less violent, but also still very much himself and violent. I do want to add that this is one of Disney's Plus first mature rated TV shows. In fact, Don't Be Like Me, at first I couldn't find it on Disney Plus, and then I had realized that I was signed under an account that was age restricted. So once I switched that over, then it appeared. So Echo release, it's over on Disney Plus, 5 episodes. It's starring Alaqua Cox. I believe I'm saying her name correct. It's starring Alaqua Cox. And I just want to throw it out there right now that yes, Echo is a hero or anti-hero, however you want to kind of put it, going all the way back to her true comic book hero origins. But Echo is essentially an anti-hero or assassin-like character or figure where she's worked alongside of Daredevil and Spider-Man and other major Marvel characters in her comic book continuity. While that may not be the case here following the Disney Plus show, I mean, I can say without a doubt, going forward here that it's very unlikely that she'll team up with any of the major Avenger-like characters. And that's mainly because the show really kind of separates itself from the larger part of the MCU. And this is part of Disney Marvel's plan going forward in the future. But going on along here in this review, I will add that any and all spoilers will be left towards the end of this video. The first part of this review is mainly going to highlight the substance or how well the show is actually presented from a linear perspective, being that all 5 episodes release at the same time. They're about 45 to 50 minutes long. Episodes 1, 2, and 3, they kind of start off really slow, which is not good, being that it's a 5-part episode, miniseries or short series. I think Alakwa Cox in each episode as an actress did a fantastic job. She's also deaf in real life. She also had her leg amputated in real life as well. So it's really, neat seeing a disabled hero getting their time in the spotlight, because sign is predominantly used throughout the entirety of the video, but of course you have subcaptions and subtitles down below for you to follow along the story. But Alakwa Cox as an actress did a fantastic job. I don't really see anything where her performance held the series back. Ultimately, what held the series back is it being, one, a short miniseries, only 5 episodes long, so it's really hard to tell a cohesive story, and then 2, the story itself that was presented. But in terms of the story, it really starts with you getting a flashback and us kind of picking up to where Maya Lopez left off at the conclusion of Hawkeye. But it picks up where Maya Lopez left off. She's on the run after, spoiler alert, shooting Kingpin at the end of Hawkeye. And then from there, the story picks up where she returns to her hometown, and then she's discovering her roots and her ancestry and just where her place is going to be now that she's trying to detach herself from the Kingpin criminal empire. And it's here, in my opinion, where the show starts to kind of taper off and go down a path to where Maya Lopez are doing these things that you're kind of asking yourself, what does this lead up to, or how is this going to conclude in a satisfying way at the conclusion of her show? She does have a well laid out supporting cast of individuals around her. Most of it is her family, like her grandmother, her cousin, and her other cousin, Biscuits. He's a cool character. He did kind of provide a little humor in between there. But there is a solid group of supporting cast that kind of helps push the story. But again, it's just not there. There's nothing really there in terms of plot or any major developments. You kind of can see the direction it's going in, and the characters, the bad guys, if you will, are just way too easy to read in terms of their motives and what's going to happen next. But the action sequences are good for what they are. They're kind of short-lived. Again, it's hard to develop a sense of good quality action in such a short or limited amount of time, only 5 episodes. A lot of what we see in the trailer is a lot of what you get inside of the show. It's no secret here because he's shown in the trailer. Yes, Daredevil does make an appearance, but we'll talk about his appearance, in the spoiler section. But Daredevil does make an appearance. I will say that fight scene in particular is probably one of the best fight scenes that I can remember to date on a D+ show. And overall, obviously the best fight scene in the whole entire series, and way better than the fight scene between him and She-Hulk.
You need to back off.
And waste this outfit? Eugene!
My ass remains unwhooped.
Yeah, let's fix that.
No. But the action sequences were good. Again, this being a mature-based TV show, we did see a little bit more blood, a little bit more gory than what we're used to for a Disney Plus show. So that did add to the overall quality of the show, but it wasn't enough to put it over the edge, to differentiate it between what's already come out over on D+, right? Like, this is almost Winter Soldier levels of violence. But again, it wasn't enough to separate or allow Marvel's Echo to carve its own place out here in the MCU. If I was to rate the show, it being a essentially 3.5 to 4.5 hour movie, but if I had to rate the series, if I had to rate it as such, and I watched it over 2 days, I have to give it a flat 5 out of 10. Some of the positives, again, were the action sequences where Maya Lopez was just taking on bad guys, or just essentially doing her thing at the end and in the beginning and kind of in the middle parts of the show. Given the setting and where it takes place, Tamaha, I believe I'm pronouncing it right, I think Marvel did a really good job paying homage to the indigenous culture and the history of the Choctaw people. So I think that was also a positive and highlight and something really interesting and cool to see. Marvel's Echo also had a halfway, decent or midway decent supporting cast. They were very small. There was her uncle, her 2 cousins, her grandmother, and her pseudo grandfather. Yeah, that's essentially it. I mean, one could also argue that Vincent D'Onofrio's Kingpin is also a supporting character, so he's also a solid 6. And one of the bonuses to the show that bumps that number up just a little higher, that makes it barely passable. I mean, 5 out of 10 is barely passable. That it's negligible. It really depends on if you enjoy the Disney Plus Marvel content that they've come to put out here as of recently. But other than that, I thought it was shot well and directed well. The writing was hit or miss. It had multiple writers on each episode, so that could also play a factor or a part as to why the story at times seems to, have a low drag but high pace feeling at times that kind of has you wondering, why am I even watching this, and what is this going to lead up to? But I watched it, I completed it, and again, I give it a 5 out of 10. If you need something on in the background, or maybe something to kill time, or you're invested in the Marvel machine like we are here at Unlimited Max, then go ahead and give it a watch, but don't expect too much. And with that said, that is my non-spoiler review of Marvel's Echo. I might have missed some things that occurred or that transpired throughout the show, but a lot of that will likely be addressed and covered over in the spoiler section. So let's jump over there right now and jump right into the spoilers. And I'm going to say initially, one of the biggest spoilers is essentially how the series ends, to where I believe this is going to take us into the direction that Daredevil's Born Again is heading into, with Kingpin being the lead front runner as the main bad guy, and essentially Marvel's best villain over the last decade since Thanos. If you think about it, he may not be like a super being or villain with cosmic level powers or a gauntlet, but with his wealth, with Kingpin's wealth, he's immense a great amount of power and control. And sometimes, especially when you're dealing with humans, that's one of the best superpowers to have. But the show ends with Kingpin defeated essentially because Maya did some weird finger head thing where I guess she took away his anger or took away his pain. I mean, the way the show ended was, we'll get to that in a second here, but the biggest spoiler is Kingpin, as it looks like, will be running for the mayor's seat in New York City. There's a very strong emphasis that this is what he plans to do. And I believe there are some heroes in New York City that should have something to say with that. That being the devil in Hell's Kitchen, my man Matt Murdock. So it's looking like Daredevil Born Again will follow a plot line where Matt Murdock will, in all likelihood, try to prevent Kingpin from winning the mayoral seat. Going backwards here, the series ends, but it looks like Kingpin's going to run for mayor of New York City. He is defeated essentially at this powwow, this Choctaw powwow, where Maya essentially calls on the powers of her Choctaw ancestors, and she's able to do, I don't even know. I really don't, but she's able to do things with these powers because her ancestors essentially came from a lake of water, and they weren't humans. They were whatevers. But once they stepped foot on Earth, they became human. And the Native American people in that area, the Choctaw people. And apparently Maya is able to just randomly call on these powers whenever she wants to, or they come to her in a time of need. Well, in the beginning of the show, like in the very first episode, it's showing her mother is killed in a car crash because the Lopez brothers, so weird because Echo's name Maya Lopez, but then the Lopez brothers cut their mother's brake tires, and she gets into a crash and she dies. And Maya witnesses this, and this is why she needs her leg amputated. At a very young age, she has her leg amputated. Now, if the Choctaw ancestors can summon on powers to help you in a time of need, I'm talking Kingpin had, the grandmother kidnapped and Maya's cousin kidnapped and surrounded, outgunned and everything. And these celestial, beings just popped up out of nowhere and gave her the power to do this little weird two-finger forehead body press that like reset Kingpin's mind. It's weird. I don't know. She was able to use it throughout the show sparingly. I mean, she got her little costume. I thought it looked a little ridiculous. I mean, Alaqua Cox did not look comfortable in it at all. It didn't look like a very practical super suit, as if she needed one anyway. I don't know why Marvel thinks they need to follow this recipe where at the end of every show, the hero gets like their comic book accurate costume, which it was not. Her costume was not very comic book accurate at all. But her mother gets her brakes cut in the beginning, and so she dies. But again, where was her Choctaw ancestors to help her mother, who her mother also had straight up healing powers, who could like bring, heal humans, birds, animals, what have you. She healed a woodpecker in the show to demonstrate that to Maya, but Maya is able to like be really accurate and like a master strategist. Like she has all these qualities and traits from her Choctaw ancestors. That's a very far right pivot from her comic book origins, but she's able to use these powers, or these powers activate, it's like a Deus Ex Machina only when she needs them to. And it's really here where the show takes a nosedive, where the rating, or where the second part of the show really hurt, in my opinion, or my rating, it really hurt the overall rating of this show. The pacing was just not great. And by the second part of the show, I mean, it's only 5, so maybe by the time you're done with 2 and you're in the beginning of 3, you're like halfway in the middle of 3, you're like, where is this really going? And it's there where the show starts to drag even more and introduce some very far right ideas that really don't make any sense. There were no major cameos. I mean, Jeremy Renner's Hawkeye does appear, but it's from archival footage, so it's not really him. It's just some old footage they had from the Hawkeye show. But that's essentially it. It's just essentially callbacks and flashbacks. There aren't any really major connections to the MCU at all. But essentially, that's all there is to cover about Marvel's Echo. Will we be getting a season 2 or part 2? I highly doubt it. I mean, this was just a short spin-off, and while the viewer numbers initially aren't looking all that impressive for Disney, chances are this is all we're going to get. We may see Echo and future shows, maybe even possibly the Daredevil show. She does have a strong connection in the comic books with her and Matt Murdock. They even dated at one point, and she found out he was Daredevil and she was going to kill him up until that point. So there could be something they do there. They did fight, and it was the best 98 seconds of action in the entirety of the show. But that's all I got for this one, y'all. If you're new to the Unlimited Max community, do be sure to hit the subscribe button for me with the notification bell on. If you haven't yet, like this video for me. It really helps us get out in front of more people. And I do hope to catch you all in the next one. So until then, be easy.